Hi guys, today we're going to talk about dividing with decimals using money, and the I can statement we're working on is I can divide with decimals using models and the standard algorithm. And for this video, we're really going to focus on models. Now, with dividing in decimals, we're going to look at two different ways to model decimal division problems. The first way is going to be with money in this set of quadrants, and then in the next set of quadrants, we'll look at a different model. So let's begin. To set up your composition book, look back on the blog at the picture I posted of how you should set up your composition book. It's similar to a WSQ, but there's a slight little difference there. Okay, so you have a guide, a companion guide to this video that you're going to be using. I cut mine up so that I can show you, so I could have the problem up and show the work in the same place instead of switching back and forth. And that way, but you have enough space that you can have the companion and your composition book open. So you're good. Let's begin. Jacob has 32 cents and he would like to share with himself and 3 friends. Now, 32 cents can be written a couple of ways. First, we can write it this way with the cent sign, 32 cents, and there's no decimal. But you will usually see this written with a decimal. And in that case, you're going to put the dollar sign. So when you give your answers today, you're going to be giving them in 2 different forms to show the difference between the 2 ways we can write money. So, okay, Jacob has 32 cents and would like to share with himself and 3 friends. Now the models we're using, as I mentioned, are money, and we're only going to use dimes and pennies and dollars for these problems. And the reason is because a dime is 1/10 or a tenth of a dollar, and 3 is in the tenths place when we have our money written as a decimal, and pennies are representative of 1/100th of a dollar. And so the pennies that we have will be represented in the hundredths place when we're writing our money as a decimal. So let's look at the amount of money we have, or Jacob has. He has $32, 32 cents, okay? And he wants to share it with 3 people. So the first question seems very easy, but it's tricky. A lot of people will get this wrong, so you've got to pay attention. How many people are going to be receiving money? Well, a lot of people are just going to say 3, but it says that Jacob wants to share with himself and 3 friends, and can mean plus, right? So there are 3 friends plus himself. So altogether, we have 4 people that Jacob is dividing this money between. So let's look at this. Is it possible, looking at this change that we have here, for Jacob to split it evenly 4 ways? Well, the answer is no. He can't divide 3 dimes into 4, but he can trade out. 1 dime is equal to 10 pennies. So if Jacob wants to trade out his dimes for pennies, he might find that that's going to be easier for him to divide. So let's do that. Let's trade out our 2 dimes that are left over for another 2 groups of 10 pennies. Okay, so for each dime that we traded out, we got 10 pennies. Plus we have these 2 extras that we started with. We never got rid of those. Now, if at any point, if you're working through this with me and you're using the models and you need to pause the video so that you can get this set up, please do. So here we go. Now we've got 10, 20, 32 pennies. And I can divide 32 by 4. When I do that, I will get 8. So let's go ahead and divide our pennies into 4 equal groups. Okay, so when I divide my 32 pennies into 4 equal groups, I get 2, 4, 6, 8 pennies per group. So let's just look at one group here, and let's write our answer 2 different ways. So first of all, how much does each person receive? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They receive 8 cents. But if I write that as a decimal, Each penny is equal to 100. So that means I only have 8/100ths of a dollar. Each person receives, well, since each group is the same, I only need to look at one. They get 0 dimes and 8 pennies. Now let's look at what that might look like as a division problem. And we're going to write 2 different division problems. So you're going to do this in the work section when you get to do it on your own. But it's not a bad idea to do these ones along with me. Let's start with how it was given. They gave us a whole number, 32 cents, and we knew we were dividing it by the 4 people. Well, 3 represented the number of dimes that we had, and nobody got dimes. Okay, so everyone got 0 dimes. 0 times 4 is 0, and when I subtract, I get 3. And I had to break those dimes up into 30 pennies, which gave me 32 pennies. So now I'm looking at the cents. How many hundredths? I had 32 hundredths because there were 32 pennies. 4 goes into 32 8 times. 4 times 8 is 32. And when I subtract, I get no remainder, so I know that it's 8 cents. So this one I would write the cent symbol because there's no decimal. But now let's look at it using decimal. Here, I'm going to be dividing 32 hundredths. Okay, now let's look at this. 4, we couldn't divide up the dimes. The dimes, this 3 is in the tenths place because a dime represents a tenth of a dollar. They got 0 dimes. 4 times 0 is 0. When I subtract, I had 3 dimes still left over, which I had to break up into pennies, and that gave me 32 pennies. So how many times does 4 go into 32, 32 pennies divided by 4? We knew that was 8. And 8 times 4 is 32. And when I subtract, I had no remainder. So now let's look at this quotient, 8. It doesn't make sense if I'm writing it with a dollar sign to say I'm giving each person $8 when he didn't even have $1 to begin with. But he did give each person 8 cents, which we know is written this way. Now the 0 here represents the ones place. So we didn't have any dollar bills, so there are no ones. But we did have 8 pennies that were given. Okay, let's look at our next problem and see if we can make, if it'll help us to make some more observations. So here we've got Elena, and Elena has 72 cents. Now this one's written in with a dollar sign. If I wanted to write it with the cent sign, I can drop the decimal, but I put the little cent sign at the end. She would like to share it with herself and 3 friends. So how many people are there? There's herself and 3 friends. So altogether, that is 4 people. So let's figure out if we had 72 cents, how much everyone would get. So let's grab 72 cents with dimes and pennies. Okay. So let's look at what Elena has. She has 7 dimes, and she's trying to share it with only 4 people. So can every person get at least 1 dime? They can. So let's do that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, which leaves us with 3 dimes left over. Can she share those 3 dimes evenly with 4 people? The answer is no. So what are we going to need to do? You guessed it. We're going to have to trade out those 3 dimes with pennies. Let's do that now. Okay, so let's look here. Each dime that I gave up, I got a group of 10 pennies. And these 2 are from the 72 cents, the extras that I still had. Altogether, I have 10, 20, 32 pennies, which I know from the last problem can be divided evenly by 4 to get 8 pennies. So each person is going to get 1 dime and 8 pennies. I have 4 equal groups now. So let's look at just one of those groups. Each person is going to receive how much? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 cents, or written as a decimal with the dollar sign, 18 cents. And every group was the same, so I know each group received 1 dime and 8 pennies. So let's look at what that looks like as a division problem. So let's start with the whole number version. 72 cents divided by 4. Each person got 1 dime. 1 times 4, that took away 4 dimes of the 7 that we started with and left us with 3. We couldn't divide those 3, so we had to split them into pennies. And when we traded those out for pennies, we ended up having 32 dimes. Or pennies, sorry. And 4 goes into 32 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. When I subtract, I get 0 as my remainder. So 18 cents. But let's look at that if I were to write it using a decimal. And I still want to divide. Now, nobody got any dollars because I didn't have any. Everyone got 1 dime, which left me with 3 dimes that needed to be traded it out for pennies, which gave me 32 pennies. So because I got 1 dime, I put it over the tenths place because it represents the 1/10 of a dollar that everyone got. But no one got a second tenth of a dollar, but they did get another 8 hundredths. That's why the 8 goes above the hundredths place. So 4 times 8 is 32. And when I subtract, I got a remainder of 0. And I put my dollar sign in. But look at this. It says I have $18. And that doesn't make sense. I know I didn't have $18. I had 18 cents. So I'm going to put my decimal in where it belongs. And I want you to note the placement of the decimal in the problem and in your answer and see if you can make some observations about that. Let's go on and look at number 3. Number 3 says Braden has $1.26 and he would like to share it with himself and 11 friends. So that's going to be how many people? You guessed it, 12 people sharing this money. I don't have $12 bills, so I'm going to need to trade that out for 10 dimes. So there are 12 people and I have 12 dimes. So that means everyone's going to get 1 dime. But I have these 6 pennies and 12 people and I can't split that any further. So this is a remainder that in this case, if we're going to share the same amount with everyone, these 6 pennies can't be shared. They're off to the side and each person will get 10 cents, right? Because I've got 12 people, 12 dimes, everyone gets a dime, each person receives 12 cents, written as a decimal, 12 hundredths. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 cents, because everyone gets 1 dime for 12 people. 10 hundredths, each person receives 1 dime and 0 pennies. Let's look at how that would work out mathematically. Well, $1.26 written as cents, well, $1 is 100 cents. So 100 cents plus 26 cents gives you 126 cents. So let's take 12 and see how many times that goes into 126 cents. Well, nobody got a dollar, but everybody did get 1 dime. So 1 times 12 was 12. Bring down that 6. Nobody could get a penny. 0 times 12 is 0. So I have a remainder of 6. So 10 cents with a remainder of 6 cents. Let's see how that looks when I use a decimal. Okay, nobody got a dollar. Everyone got a dime, which left me with 6 pennies. Nobody could get a penny. And I had a remainder. Now, they didn't get $10, they got 10 cents with a remainder of 6 cents. Okay, so now it's your turn. Try numbers 4, 5, and 6, and when you're done, come check with me and we'll have a little discussion. You can go back and watch this video again as many times as you need to, or any part that you need to. But don't forget to write down your observations or patterns that you notice on the right-hand side of your WSQ.